Hello, can you hear us?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. I didn't know if we can hear.
I think they're still waiting for a few more people to file into the.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. So anybody online, if you want to make a comment, just raise your hand and we'll make a comment when that comes up. Also in the room, I'd like to introduce Mr. Bruce Davis and Joe Gilia. They're our private landowners in Unit 48 that we're going to mainly be talking about today. So thank you guys for coming and joining us as well. What I'm going to start out with is a brief overview of what a unitization is. What does it actually mean? How does it help us, and how does it help the public hunters, and how does it help the landowners? Okay, so what is a unitization? It's a year-long cooperative agreement between the Department of Game and Fish, private landowners, the state lands office, and sometimes the BLM properties. Okay, we set, like we try to identify certain areas. We want to like set some larger blocks of country aside for public hunters to hunt and the private landowners to hunt as well. And sometime in that exchanges, we will close off some of the state land or the BLM properties to make some large areas where both sides don't have to really worry about boundaries. As you know, right now, we do have to worry about hunting on private property or hunting on public property if you're a private landowner and stuff. So these things help us, help the officers, help the landowners, help the public out there not really have to worry about boundaries in certain areas. Right? It's a completely voluntary. Most of the time, our officers out in the field are interacting with the landowners quite a bit, obviously interacting with the public. Sometimes we see a lot of trespassing issues at certain places, so how do we mitigate some of that stuff? These unitizations are helping us identify those. When we first started this program, I've been on for about 25 years. They were started before my career. They've been around for a long time. They were just open to deer, elk, and quail. Within the last 5 years, the commission has opened it up to all species. It's available how we want to tailor each agreement to work. And it's for fishing, hunting, trapping in certain places, or things like that. How do we select those again? You know, to identify areas right now with our state land agreement as well. We want to make it almost a 50-50 split. Okay. If we can make it a 50-50 split, it works best. We always want to try to make it as beneficial to both sides as possible. We look at the habitat quality, the hunting opportunities, any wildlife management needs that we have to help address things, and some of this public access in certain areas. I think we have today, not including this unitization yet, we have 7 in place that have been around for many years. I know we have at least 4 or 5 that have been around for over 20 years. We have some that are in about 10-year stages and a couple that are about 2 or 3 years old. Every year we kind of reevaluate these properties making sure that we are providing a benefit to both sides, making sure we're still addressing issues, because as you know, things change year to year, and how do we address that and make it still what we intended it to be at the beginning. Okay. Some of them that we've implemented, they do create those large chunks of definable areas. We do like to use fence boundaries if possible. Sometimes it's geographical mountain ranges or ridges, something like that, that's pretty definable. Pasture fences are really easy to work with if they're there. Sometimes they're not. Some of them are, if it was like too close to properties or we're getting some safety concerns. We've talked about some of that down in Roswell. That's one of the ones that was pretty close to some urban areas. So we try to chunk up some of that in exchange for it. And when I say less work on patrolling, not just for my officers, that's for the landowners that are patrolling for trespass. Our officers are always looking at for both sides of it. If they're looking, monitoring who's where. When he goes into a certain area on those unitizations, he knows he's going to deal with the public hunters, or should. Or if he goes into one certain area, he's only going to be dealing with the private landowners or private hunters. So it makes that side of it a little easier, and in turn, it helps our landowners take a little bit of stress off of having to control their boundaries on a daily basis.
Excuse me, do you have another sign-in sheet
Go in the back of it, be fine.
on the back?
Yeah. Yeah, see that? I don't know if I can blow it up. Here's one of our older historical unitizations. This is down in unit or GMU 37. This one has probably been around for at least 17, 18 years, maybe a little bit longer. This big, large chunk of state land is all landlocked by private. You cannot legally access that property. I don't remember the exact split on the acreages on that. But this landowner agreed to open up all these green areas, which are more contiguous to the forest, in exchange for closing off this. As you can see, that's like maybe a quarter mile little stretch from the highway. And the trespassing issues were very extreme in this area because people were hopping the fence, hunting a lot of the private to claim to get to this state line. We spent lots of man hours, a lot of times with trespassing issues on this one. Since we've been started this unitization.
Can you talk louder?
Yes. So since we started this unitization, our trespass complaints have gone down. The hunter satisfaction in the area has increased. So that's what it's all about. Okay. I have some questions just about unitizations, what it entails, or if I can clarify anything on that side of it. Anybody have that? Yes,
So
sir.
we talked about the 37. Who actually gave you the input about things increasing?
How did we come about that one?
Where'd you get that information on? You said like the hunters were happier that everything was increasing in a positive way.
From our interactions in the field. Like I said, we reviewed it on an annual basis and stuff. So when it was enacted, we had public comments and all that stuff then. And kind of reviewed on a basis. And then, at the end of the season, when the officers dealing with complaints and trespass stuff, they'll start declining.
I had just seen some comments on like the high school wildlife, if you kind of turn that area into like a high fence hunting area to where it just benefited the private landowner of that area.
That's fun.
Yeah, there was just a lot of people that were local to that area said that they just totally turned that unit into non-public friendly hunters and all.
Well, not that I'm aware of 37.
So, yeah.
They don't, it's all that box, so.
It's just big chunks of that. That's that whole area.
There's a lot of this checkerboarded country where it's hard to access. One road going in there gets locked and it stops a lot of public access. So we're trying to prevent some of that stuff or try to increase.
This is for hunting purposes only, like it doesn't change the deed or anything like
No,
that.
oh no, it's still, the property still belongs. The deed still belongs to the state land office, the deed still belongs to the private landowner. None of that changes, only an agreement in place with us allows us to set regulations for those particular properties. Yes, sir.
And so the agreement is between the game and fish, the landowner, and the state land office,
Correct.
correct?
Yeah.
And at any time, should the hunters or the users of that area feel like it's not serving them anymore, or if it wasn't in the first place, we can petition the state land office to do away with this unitization, right?
Or you approach us and we reevaluate it. One of them that we had with one of our first ones that we did with the BLM office, which is down in, it was unit 32, included some state land and BLM. Involving, it was like one big ranch, one big landowner, but split into two ranches. So we almost had two separate unitizations going on the same properties. Or by the same landowner, I guess. We had many meetings to talk about it at the end of the season. We reevaluated a lot of it, changed some of those access points, or opened up different pastures that seemed more beneficial to what the hunters want.
So in the initial map proposal, there were two roads that connect the east side to the west side of the unit that were being proposed to be shut down. But how did that even become like an option? And I mean,
So
when I saw that, I called the land office immediately and I said, this is a non-starter here. We have to have that access between the east and the west side. But how worked was that idea?
It's the next.
We're gonna go into that next
Our
portion of
next
it.
slide
and see
is
what
actually,
goes
they
on.
haven't presented on that
Perfect.
quite yet.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Time.
I'll explain that side of it some more, but you had a question over here?
I was just gonna ask, when the state land gets transferred, we're not transferred. Does the state get any kind of benefit? Not the least agreement, because it's not us, but do you guys get any benefit as far as taxes?
No, we never had to on the other side of it. If it stayed the same way, it doesn't change. The only thing that changes is the hunting or fishing regulations on that piece of property. Okay, so back to, so this piece of state property, you would think it is anything that you did on private land, you can use a private land tag to hunt on this piece of property. You can use a public land tag to hunt this open private property without written permission. Okay, yes, sir.
I don't know, but common sense would tell me that that deal that they made wasn't benefiting the hunters at all. They lost a big chunk of land versus a few pieces over here. Seems like you're doing this to benefit the ranchers versus benefiting the hunters, in my opinion.
For ones like this, there's just no legal access to
Can't get
it. It's a big piece of state that could be hunted if you could get to. So there's no legal way.
There's no access.
Right.
No access.
It's completely landlocked, but the white's private. So this was private that you could get to, that this opened up.
Yes, sir.
Legal access.
So not only can tell me if I'm wrong, but the land that the private I guess, traded, the private gets to hunt that land as well, and the the closed area, is what you're saying.
They would be able to hunt their deeded property and this chunk. Okay,
and the land they trade, co-use,
Nope.
that's not.
Nope.
That's not.
Not on this, not in this particular agreement.
Yeah, he's talking
Okay.
about, he's talking about this.
People are
Yeah.
confused, I
Okay.
think that this is not the agreement that we're here to
Yeah,
talk
right.
about today as far as the
These are
proposal
just
goes. So it might
So
be,
it's different than this one.
it's different,
Correct.
so the
Yeah.
one we're here to talk about tonight, he's gonna show you those maps. This is one that's been in existence for a time, and I think he was giving background on that, but I do think if we talk about the one we're here to talk about
Yeah.
tonight, then we can answer some of the specific questions. Game and Fish can answer those questions that are coming up from you guys.
He's just looking to give background on what a unitization is, and then it ends with an example of one, but we're gonna move next into the actual one we're gonna talk about tonight.
Correct. Yeah, we do have a couple public comments here. One of them,
From Alex Flores, does public land in an agreement get blocked off during the whole year or just during the hunting season?
it can be tailored, we go on a license year, but we can tailor it to specific dates as well. Most of them, we like to be simple. April 1st, March 31st, that's the simplest way to do it. What was another comment before, if there's anything
I think
further?
Alex Flores, if you want to unmute yourself.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. I guess the question is twofold. One is closed off land, gated and fenced throughout the whole year. I heard you say, for instance, that one of the only things that changes are the hunting and fishing regs, but then you also spoke to trespassing generally, which seems like it's a bigger issue than just during hunting. So the question I put in the chat was, are those closed off blocks also going to be closed during non-hunting dates during the year?
It depends on the agreement itself. You know, most of ours are, if there's certain species, say if it's only deer only, then it's just during deer seasons. If it's all species, then it would be the whole license year.
Thank you. And I might have missed early in the meeting. I know you started with describing unitization, but is the purpose here more for the public to ask questions, or should we also just register opinions that you're going to record, for instance, about that issue I just brought up?
Both.
Okay.
So we're taking public comment for our next proposal that I'm gonna get into. I just needed to give you guys some background on what we're doing and why.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions before we move on to?
Matthew Gray, if you'd like to speak, you can unmute yourself.
Yes, thank you. I'm trying to keep it to just about general utilization in general. If the proposal was approved for unit 48 and it was for a year, would the renewal be up for public comment?
Yes. Typically on these newer unitizations, we'll go about 2 or 3 cycles of getting public comment.
Thank you.
All right. We'll jump into the meat and potatoes of all this, why we're here today. Captain Jackson couldn't be with us today. He's over our northeast area. But Mr. Davis and Joe approached Ty Jackson and Marcelino Peralta about, hey, how do we get together and make some improvements to the landscape? How do we mitigate trespassing? How do we start approaching things? And
If I could, Colin.
Yes, sir.
I want to know that I'm not the landowner. Bruce and them, the landowners, I'm actually from Vegas, graduated from Highlands U, teacher coach out of Cimarron, and I've been a public land hunter in Unit 48 for just my 4th year. So that's my background. I'm a bow hunter.
unitization and that have been revoked once they were in place are significant.
So the question online was, did they have it or just typed in?
They just technically.
Okay, so the question online was if there's any unitizations where we modify things or just cancel it all. Like I said before, the Felice River and Felice Canyon ranches, those are ones that we have modified before, after we did the presentation, we modified it to help everything out. After a license year, we came back with some more meetings and readjusted a few things, because sometimes it doesn't work exactly the way we intended to happen the first time. Okay. Looking at the map, actually, let me do this. You guys all have Onyx, understand what it is, basically a mapping program. You can kind of see the shades are a little light, I don't know why. But the shaded areas are state land, the unshaded areas are private property. This is all in Unit 48 right now that we're going to be talking about. Onyx Maps does a good, pretty good attempt at showing unit-wide properties. You gotta understand what a unit-wide L branch is. And if they show up here like some of these ranches are, they're unit-wide, which means a public hunter with a private or a public draw tag can hunt those private property pieces. If they're not signed up in the unit-wide ranches, they're ranch only, and they stay on the ranch. Public hunters cannot go onto those ranches, okay, without written permission. Unit 48, as you can see, has some of those. Blow it up just a little bit bigger. Pretty good portion of it. It does have a fair amount of unit-wide ranches and a fair amount of private property. Okay, a lot of our access roads that go into Unit 48 cross private property at times. Okay, and a lot of those roads they're not public roads. They're just been roads that have been made. Let me get to this one. Okay. Here's our proposal. Everything in green, like I showed you before, these are all private property, deeded private land. All the shaded areas in green, they are just like the white properties right now. This red slashed properties, that is currently state land property that is being proposed to close to the public hunter. The green is going to be opened up, private property opened up to the public hunter. And then this one, we do have this shaded yellow area, which is what we're going to call a co-use shared property boundaries, where both the private and the public can hunt in that property, or within those boundaries. The split on this, the opening up all the shaded green areas is 1,547 acres. Okay, the state land closing is 912, and then this co-use area is 633 acres. Okay. Why is this? Back up to this co-use area. Kind of see a couple points here. This area, and I'll get into a minute here. We have like a 3D image of it, like a video to walk through and present. But it's a big old bowl up there. The ridges come up. You can park at these 2 points, and then walk into here. It'll be a walk-in area only. Okay, so you don't have to worry about another ATV running up on you while you just got in there first light chasing an elk. Okay. Our officers will be in presence to stop that, issue citations or whatever we need to do at that point. Okay. This not arbitrary line, it's how did we come up with this line? It's a big steep ridge. That's the geographical barrier that I was talking about earlier, that's the best thing that we could figure out how to set up some boundaries for everybody. Okay. And then when I show this other video on the 3D side of it, it'll help show that. I need to blow it up a little bit better. Okay. Here's an aerial or more satellite image of the area. Unfortunately, I don't know why the color oversee it a little bit, but you can kind of see that ridge there. And here's a little more detailed map. Okay, this one has a little less detail, a little more topographic detail in it on this ridge line. Okay, you can really see that the details in that ridge. Before we dive off into some questions and stuff, I'll show Joe put together a pretty good presentation on it. It's a little 8-minute video.
Indicate an informed view of the proposed unitization groups. And really, how this is a huge win for all involved. Public land hunters, American Creek Properties, New Mexico Game and Fish, and the State Land Office. So let me describe what you're looking at. The areas in green that you see, these are current American Creek private properties. These acres are the proposed in these. So if you look in here, what's clear is what is currently right now. This is private Martinez Canyon area right here. The other areas that you see out here inside green, these are the proposed 1,547 American Creek acres. So each one of these out here that you see. The areas in red that you see right here, these are the proposed 912 public land acres right here. This area in yellow are the proposed 633 acres that we talked about designating as a shared borders pilot program. Something else I want to make sure that you're aware of is these little blue dots right here. Those represent areas of moisture that tend to have water. And another important feature that I'd like to point out are these contour lines. The closer they are, the more steep and difficult. The further apart they are from each other, the flatter and easier to travel. Each one of these lines represents 20 feet in elevation. So I think the most revealing way to show this is in 3D view. It's going to give you a whole different idea of what you're dealing with. So when you start taking a look at in 3D view here, when you start taking a look at the 1,547 American Creek acres, these acres are prime hunting, water and feed areas for wildlife. They're easy to access and they ensure public access to the unit and various locations within the unit. The 912 public acres that you're looking at are without fence and they are located in very steep and difficult terrain. Difficult to both manage and to hunt, especially difficult for public hunters with no easy way to retrieve a downed animal. Let me tell you, it's not for the faint of heart. The 633 acres inside here, they're a hidden area behind a prominent ridge that drops into the Ojo drainage right here with a very steep drop off down into the Martinez Canyon. If I was actually to change this angle, you can get a much better idea of the ridge, the drop into the Ojo drainage, and the extreme drop off that happens down into the Martinez Canyon. So with that, probably the biggest question is, why would American Creek want to trade almost double the amount of acreage? 1,547 prime, easily accessible hunting acreages for 912 acres, of which 97%, except for this right here, 91% of this is extremely steep and difficult terrain. Here's the answer. Because it's a huge management issue. It's a problematic recipe for game and fish for us at American Creek Properties and for public land hunters. We have worked hard, really hard, to try to find a solution for all. Honestly, giving up a lot of the things and conceding things that we felt we needed for an equal trade. The biggest winner being the public land hunter, because they are now guaranteed access to the unit through American Creek Properties and many areas within the unit, and one of the biggest, if not the largest chunk of continuous hunting without checkerboarding. Once you end up adding these areas into here, look at the size of the area that hunters get to hunt without worrying about where they are. With the 912 public acres, the lack of fencing in here, coupled with a couple of old roads from the top of the ridge that come down in this area right inside here, they're used both by poachers and also best intention hunters that often end up beyond public boundaries. And that has created a recipe for trespass and conflict, as a lot of those people have ended up down inside our private acres down here, and we have had to deal with that issue many times. It's a management nightmare for game and fish and American Creek Properties. With the 1,547 acres, by giving access through them and because of their location checkerboarded throughout the most sought after hunting on this side of the unit, many good intention hunters are often hunting on private property illegally. Another management nightmare for game and fish and public hunters. We had originally sought the 633 acres labeled as shared borders on the game and fish map as a buffer, knowing that if it was designated as closed to public, there would still be those that would enter, but at the risk of being ticketed, that entry would have been only so far. Because the area is also problematic for them on their borders, the UU Bar, neighbor to the north, also wanted to see this happen. There's a lot of times that they've had issue with people cutting fence and coming through in these issues. There's a lot of that happens up in here as well. However, to keep the area public, accessible by both public hunters and American Creek, and by making it walk-in with no vehicle access, because there's two main roads only. And there's not like there's a lot of driving in here, but those two main roads come in. One here, comes down and you can see it, drive right through here, comes across, and it goes out in a circle out this side. By making this walk-in, there's no loss to the public And we still can have a presence to mitigate foul play and have a buffer that would help deter trespass into Martinez and the UU Bar Ranch. It also provides an incredible sanctuary for animals and a great hunt without side-by-sides and vehicle disturbance that would be an experience many public hunters would appreciate. I have been hunting this country for 40 years, always as a public land hunter. I have also guided on the other side of the fence, both in the UU Bar and the Martinez Canyon. I have firsthand experience and absolutely know the issues for both. I've been a voice for public hunters and worked with the state land office for years to make this situation better. Look, this is my backyard. I truly love this country and the people that use it. And I have dealt with years and years of the issues, as have my friends, my colleagues, and people I've worked for. That is why we have proposed this solution.
Thank you, Joe, for putting that together. I'm not that technically savvy to do that, so I appreciate that. With that, just not sharing this. So I mean, that's the nuts and bolts of what we're talking about today for the most part.
But won't that affect our handicap? They can't walk in there and he likes to hunt in that area from the top. He can't drive if they're gonna make it.
That's a good question.
Yeah, because, you know, he hunts up there, he drives up there and parks and waits.
Right.
How's he gonna be able to do that? They're gonna make it a walking area.
Wait all day and then somebody else can kill.
So what I'll do, because there's quite a few people in attendance, I'm just gonna go down the list of people that signed in and offer you the opportunity if you have a comment or not, and then we'll keep it kind of organized that way. Yeah, if you haven't, has anybody not signed in that wants to comment? So.
Well, you're to finish up. I'm gonna answer a few questions here that were written in the comments. Okay. So Bill Flora and a private tag hunters hunt in a closed area. So the closed red pieces in unit 48, it's a secondary management unit where you have to have written permission to hunt on private property or other deeded properties. So if Mr. Davis gave them written permission to hunt on the deeded property, they could hunt in those areas. Okay. Why is state land property being closed to hunting or some of the other areas? So the areas that are being closed here, they were described just a minute ago in that 3D video. It's on the very steepest part of the mountain range. I don't know if it's any better hunting or not. I don't
It doesn't have the reach, so that's what makes the phone calls. Yeah.
That video was one-sided.
Actually, you know, I tried to be as honest as I could, because I've been on that side all this time. And one thing that I can say about the CF properties is that I'm very proud to be associated with Bruce, because they've always tried to do things to help the hunters. They've never gone in there and kept us from having access. It's always been hunter friendly in that area. And in fact, I think so much so that a lot of us, me included, have always considered a lot of that public land, even though it was needed, right? So, I mean, I'm being transparent. Everything I said right out right there, as transparent as possible. And so when we took a look at this to try to make it something positive on both sides, you know, you take a look at 900 some acres versus 1,500. I mean, I think he's done a great job of being hunter friendly. And there's some ways that all of us could work together on this. And honestly, it felt like this is the best proposal. You know, instead of it being 1,500 acres each and us taking 1,500 acres, we tried to do it where the state hunters didn't lose out on anything, but it still helped the situation. That's all.
Yeah, so just on that, guys, again, Sergeant Peralta, I'm the Raton sergeant. I patrol quite a bit of this area, okay? And so just to piggyback off that, and Bruce, just to give you guys an example, and if you're not aware of it, where this location is, when I moved up here, a lot of folks called it Aspen Hill Turnoff, right? That's the Aspen Hill access. So if you don't know where that's at, that's off of Highway 120, about milepost 5, okay? So that's really, there's only 2 access points that you can access this west side of Unit 48. You either got the Poor Boy access, what we call Black Lake, or you got Aspen Hill, okay? And to piggyback off of that, for example, this is Highway 120 right here, okay? This right here, you're gonna have State Road 199. Technically, 199 is in litigation right now, right? So we're in the process of working it out with the landowner because they basically fenced off 199.
It's administratively closed right now for litigation, so while we work through that, that's
I
part
know
of
they
it.
opened one last year, and then the landowner went and closed it.
Well,
again.
this is the thing. In order to access any of this country, you have to go up this property and turn down this road. Now you are legally able to do so if this unitization went through. If it is not, potentially landowner can lock the gate and we would be out of luck until that court decision is finalized. So that's a good thing. If you guys look up there, I mean, now Sawmill Lake, now that's gonna be open as part as the unitization, right? And I think it's a good point to understand. I see it a lot during hunting season and say, when you're hunting this blue state land, I get a lot of calls. Hey, I made a shot, my animal ran, and now he's on private property. What do I do? Well, there's the right way to do it, right? We got to contact the landowner. We got to see if we have permission to go get that down game. And so some of these you could see at one point where they still are technically private property. If this unitization goes, they basically bundle these properties together. So now instead of that being private, you can now legally hunt that. You can legally hunt that. Instead of like worrying about private property, you can legally hunt that. That's the whole process. And I really like it as a public hunter. It's given us more access. Horseshoe Lake, I mean, man, I patrolled that quite a bit. There's a lot of game in there, a lot of game. And so instead of worrying about being on private property, now you have the ability to legally access that area.
How about access from White's Peak to that area on those roads that were like court order open?
Yeah, so like Colonel Sybil was saying, State Road 199 basically goes from Aspen Hill to the Sweetwater side. It's about a 22-mile stretch of road that the Game Commission owns. However, there is a portion that is administratively closed. And the reason is because it is surrounded a large chunk of private property, and there is no really benefit for public hunters to access State Road 199. Because if we would open that, we're guaranteed we're gonna get more prone of people hunting on private property. Because the opportunity to hunt game. So in order to do that, to get on the other side where there's tons of public land, you just have to get back on 120 and access it through the Red Hill access. And that's part of the corridor of roads. And lastly, what I wanted to explain is some of this stuff to the public hunters that aren't here tonight. What we do in the Raton area is every year we submit a Unit 48 hunter letter. So if you're successful, whether it's archery, muzzleloader, rifle, we have the lucky list of hunters that were successful. We physically send them an email
And that packet it covers everything, the core road of roads. It talks about designated camping areas on state land, where you can and can't camp. Different access points. We've got officer contact lists, so we try to prep the hunter before their hunt. And this is gonna be something that obviously we'll include in that packet if approved, so.
I had a question, Ethan.
Let me go down the list though, because we got a lot of people that want to know it. And Joe, you were first on it, so I kind of gave your spiel. You're good. Okay. I'm just gonna go down. If you wish to comment when I call your name, please feel free. Bruce, David. Good. I'll pass. Dan, I'll pass the state land folks. You guys mind?
Yeah, we're just here to listen.
Yeah.
If there's a question directed at us, I'm happy
Okay.
to try to.
Don, Avery. Dan?
Yeah, I'm not in favor of any of it.
Ortiz looks like the last name. Corey, Coy. That one?
I just go with the hand raising, it's easier.
Yeah, just. How many people want to comment? That's man. Okay, let's just start on this side, more forwards.
Okay. So in the original proposed map, and this gentleman alluded to it, there were 2 roads that were going to be closed that would connect the east and the west side of the unit that are not closed. So that would be a non-starter for me. I mean, those roads for since I was a baby, I'm 60+ years old. Those closures were removed from the second proposal. And just for historical purposes, you know, the code use, the private public. So that's a micro example of what has occurred in the whole unit over the years. And it's always benefited the landowners that encompass that unit. When I was a kid, and whether it was legal or not, we never got cited for it. We had camping in the whole unit. We camped wherever we wanted. Every family had, the Abreu's had their place that they camped. We would have our place that we camped in. So on and so on. And it wasn't on the periphery of the unit. And now what has occurred because of the designated campsites is the public hunters have been turned into bush beaters. From the points for these designated campsites, and now everybody has a UTV, a side-by-side ATVs, whatever. You get 30 guys in each of these campsites starting now in August, because bear season starts in August. Grouse, everything starts, and then in September the archery hunts. No one goes hunting alone. Everybody has a cohort with us. You get 30 people, 40 people coming out of one campsite on UTVs. On this campsite, 40 out of this campsite, 40 out of that campsite. It's a freaking circus, and all we're doing is just pushing the game into the private land that encompasses that public land. And we know for a fact that that game would rather be on the public area. That it's the best land, not the best, but it competes with the best land up there. The other thing is the number of tags that is given out in that unit for deer archery, elk archery, 2 hunts, then muzzleloader, then rifle. You guys know the number. I think it's probably close to 600 tags. It's just, what are we doing to that place? That place is, for most of these people here, that place is sacred. It's just creating, we're sacrificing that place for the sake of the landowners that encompass public land. We're sacrificing it. We're destroying it. We, us, you and us, we're destroying that area. And I don't see this proposal being bad. It's not, you know, I guess it's nice to know that we have more contiguous property to run on. But I think we need to look at this thing a little more holistically and think about what we are doing to that place and who it's benefiting. If you guys are selling, you know, 600 tags up there, you're making a lot of money on those tags, and a lot of them are out-of-staters, they're non-residents, so I think, you know, the proposal itself, you know, I could take it or leave it, and it wouldn't make a difference to me, but I think the whole thing has to be looked at a little more holistically, a little more realistically. If there's conservation measures that need to be taken up there, you know, I know that yellow portion is a conservation measure, and I'm even okay with that, you know, but there are a lot of folks that go up there that may not have the ability to pack up an animal out of it. And we've used it for 50, 60 years, you know?
Right.
But those are my comments, and I'm glad those closures, those road closures were taken off that proposal.
If I may, can I tag on to his comments? Yeah. You know, he mentioned all these licenses that are public draw. But how about the landowners, for example, Stanley, maybe UU Bar, they got unlimited license. You know, so they offset the public draw. You know, they can handle, you know, Stanley gets over 100, you know, landowners permits. You know, and then not only that, but they're ranch only, and they still have on state land. And vice versa, they don't, you guys, when I say you guys, it's Beamer Fish, okay? Don't allow the public hunter to go and hunt on his space.
Yeah, currently they can't hunt on.
I can't hear you.
Currently, they cannot hunt on the state land.
Yeah, but they do.
We see it all
You
the
know, you
time.
go out there and you patrol, but you patrol the public land and you don't concentrate on the private land. And that's been happening for years. That's scale. You know,
When you do see it, we would ask that you call it in to Operation Game Team time, so that it gives us something. Because as you know, there's only so many of us, the gray shirts in the field, right? But there's a ton of public. One of the best tools we have is that ability to turn somebody in and remain anonymous. Even make some money if you want to. So we would ask that if you're seeing illegal activity, to give us a call and report that.
You've been waiting a long time.
Yeah. So that area in yellow,
Yes.
if anybody knows that area, there's 2 access roads in that area. You're gonna have hunters lined up in a convoy going on this road, going on the top road, the north end of the event, because you can't navigate through that freaking timber. It's 90% blowdown. We packed an elk out of there and it's hell. I'd rather pack an elk off that hillside than I would that blowdown timber. That's hard to do. I mean, you're just gonna use us as a push.
These markers here are gonna be like right on the inside of like right on the top of the ridge.
Right.
There'll be a parking area, designated parking from there.
Mm-hmm. Those are the 2
That's where they're gonna be. You know, I mean, that seemed like the easiest point to be.
I get that.
You know,
I mean, I see it.
if-
But, I mean,
Yeah.
that's
the simplest way to stop it, you know, instead of having to walk from the bottom all the way up that ridge, compromise and say, let's put it on top of the ridge. That gives you guys the ability to push through.
It's just, it's gonna benefit a certain group. I mean, it doesn't benefit him. You know what I mean? It doesn't.
Yeah, that's something we really didn't take into account, the mobility of the hunter.
Yeah.
That's something we, yeah.
Use it a lot, because if I
Let me
hunt
finish.
other areas, there's 4-wheelers like, back to sea. You know, I'm sitting there, I sit there all day long, and then come the actual time, and boom, 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 I'm bombarded. And at least with this area, I know the traffic that comes in and comes out. and it's almost minimal. You know, I don't wanna.
Well, that's why we want these public hearing meetings, because it's a proposal.
And actually.
It's not a done deal, we're looking for.
That's not a mobility unit, but after a while, reserve is so out of control that I'm better odds up here. You know, and I'm applying with the rest of you guys.
But you do have certain abilities, and we do have certain things in regulation that allow that. We have some joint agreements with the state land office to address that in your specific situation. And that's something we'll need to work with. So, who is next back there? Were you finished with your comment?
Not really, but I mean, back to other units, like unit 15, unit 5 ranches. I mean, I know that's probably a definite, that's why we're here. They don't want to go unit 5. They don't want to share with the public. But I mean, the way you're saying it's a 50-50 split, but it's not. I mean, not really. Those pieces that they're giving us, they're 100 yards of the road, and you're impacting the public. I mean, except for the big L shape up on top, the upside down, that's probably the biggest portion. And it's all open, but I mean, that's the only one that's beneficial to us in my eyes, other than what they're using to kind of, use us as our ultimatum is that bottom piece for the access to the entire state trust map. It sounds like if we don't go with this, they're just gonna close that access off and say, yeah, you, and you figure it out. I don't know, is that what we're here for?
Just like when they close the people bonds on us, we used to hunt those all our lives, and then all of a sudden we can only go up to a certain place and that's it. Can't access to none of those anymore.
I mean, this is just a small portion of the unit. I mean, it's blurred, it's blown up, so it looks like it's a big portion, but correct me if I'm wrong, and that main portion in white, 5,000 acres around there.
Martinez said?
Yeah. In white, 5,000 acres as opposed to the whole unit. I mean, shit.
All of that isn't one ranch, that's multiple ranches.
That total white there, I mean.
Yeah.
This lower half is
David
Stanley, I believe, yeah, Stanley Ranch and then American Creek.
Why not?
So these are the first landowners that have been receptive to going into an agreement like this. There's lots of country would like to open up for sure, but American Creek is the first one that has been receptive to us in Unit 48 doing something like this.
I mean, I think as a hunter, unit wide, I mean, shit, the private gets the best of both worlds too. I mean, there's a lot of elk on our state land. And we know it. And we know there's elk on theirs, of course. I mean, it's the heart right there. It's not so, but I don't know, I think unit wide tax is a good option for everybody to. I mean, not for them, because if we're out there for that.
Anybody else in the back row that had comment? No. How about this next table? You guys, comment?
So if this were to happen, let's just say it's not going to keep on board.
What do you mean?
Well, next rancher. Property, would you switch some type of property that you don't use much for a good piece of state property? Again.
It could happen, I mean, it will come forward to us, we work with.
Yeah,
We work with state land office, us.
Land at the bottom that ain't worth nothing for the whole number on top, or there is animals,
There's a lot of, we've had a property like that earlier this year, another one down in the south that was trying to exchange it for a few pieces or probably like a section for almost double. I guess, yeah, he wanted to trade us like one section, but closing off a lot more once we evaluated it. It was like, yeah, we're not gaining anything, or you guys are not gaining anything from the public hunter aspect of it. So we didn't even go with that unitization or even entertain it. So we look at it very stringently on what we're looking at, what we're giving up, what we're in trade for before we even bring it to you guys.
I just see it as they're trying to use this administration before they get out to get something they want. Before a new administration comes in, talk about the governor. That's the way
We were actually approved by. It was a good management deal they had. So. I'm the outfitter that has the lease. So instead of looking at something that was 1,500, I have a state hunter's heart. I've been hunting all this country. And I figured that was the best. What's that?
So you know it very well.
I know it very well, yes. Yeah,
So like
so I
I
know
said,
what the issue.
these little L's, you just pass by them.
That's all, that's on Spruce, to the west of Spruce right there. For bow hunters, now for rifle hunters and bow hunters, a little bit different, depends on the mentality, right? Whether open or whether you wanna be full walking through it. So the horseshoe and down there on the bottom down there where you're coming in, shoot, just the other day, the 200 head, right, as you come in there on the gate at the bottom, you know, just the other day. It's actually a great country for us to keep because it helps with the cow hunting and stuff like that, or when they get the winter. But when you talk about overall management, right, and trying to make it work for two sides so that, you know, because Bruce has been great in that area of that country, and I think that's one thing that we forget, and we kind of take advantage of that sometimes, right? Is that he's been really great, and that ranch has been great stewards, and that's the other thing. They graze all this country, right? They have lease on graze. Well, he don't overgraze the country. That's one reason that the elk has gotten so good in there, because of the way he stewards the land and moves around in that country to ensure it doesn't get overgrazed and stuff. So he's actually working and helping us state hunters. I include myself in that. I drew a state land tag this year, right? I've been, and I plan on going in that country. It just depends on your mentality and the place. So like you asked, could this be something that could happen again? Well, shoot, man, I know some areas over there on the Stanley that I would love to see, because Stanley keeps us roped out of it. I would love for him to give us that section over there by the beaver ponds over there, and just take those areas within his to make it so that he's gonna hunt that. I would love to see that.
I agree with that.
Yeah, me too. We all agree with that.
So, if
We should approach him and ask him.
how many years have I been hunting that country for?
I know, Joe, Max.
I'm sorry, Max, I always do. So that's what I'm trying to say, man, is when you look at it, sometimes you have to look at it with two different mentalities, and this was meant to do good. It's transparent as I can get.
Stephen Akita with State Land Office
I would
has.
say to your original question, because it's so very important, all these other possibilities, so. England, fish at a time, but like Cole would say, if you look at these one by one, and if you're worried about, say, David Stanley, the one thing over there is we look at land offices. Is this gonna close public roads on state land? And obviously, the court decision that we made, we're really familiar with, that would fly on this, because so much, depending on whether we want to close the trade line, you'd be looking at those public roads and saying, no, the one difference here is none of those court decisions are on this proposal outside of, you know, the one.
Oh, you're just talking about easement rights to get in.
On the bottom. Yeah, so that's something that's been removed. Well, that road is there, it's physical access, but it's even currently not the legal access. The 199 is the legal access, so this, and, you know.
When Walt closed that off, he opened up the easement and let it come through this property.
So
There used to be several accesses on the bottom right there.
Yeah, but all those private landowners.
So a question. So if the consensus is, you know, we don't want to do this, then essentially that bottom axis on the 120, that goes away, and then we would have to go all the way to Red Hill to get up to White Spring, to Spruce Hill and Aspen Hill?
Well,
again, it's administratively closed off the Red Hill side. And so I can tell you, just based on me, I put a lot of effort with State Road 199. I'm there hours and days following up, taking pictures, documenting. And I would just stay tuned. I mean, we're gonna continue to fight for State Road 199. That's never gonna end. But we obviously got a process we gotta follow. And, yeah, once it's done with litigation, then we'll what we got. But
So for this year, for starting archery, September 1, are we gonna have access to that road off of 120 into 199 from the top, from the west side?
Off of 120 right now.
Not the four-way access, but
For right along,
Yeah.
right along the Bowles property here,
okay,
currently there is a logging access road that the state land is authorized the public to continue to use.
Okay.
Okay, it's pretty well gravelled, it's pretty nasty when it's wet, but it's
Sure.
still accessible through there.
Yeah.
And we have that access, like we were saying earlier, this access cuts to the west, or to the east along the fence line and ties back into the main roads there.
And that part would be up to Mr. Davis. It goes through this track.
Who gave the administrative order to close the ones that were court ordered?
Way before our time.
That you can't. Who did that?
long before probably even I was born.
No. That's
it
why
was
the
something like 4 years ago.
Attorney General went through all that deal with Stanley and I don't remember who else, and they're supposed to be open. So there's maps that now.
Yeah, correct, yeah. So those roads are deemed open. However, State Road 199 is owned by the game commission.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to get at is what he's made, the comment from White Peak to go across to there. There's roads that are supposed to be open.
There's one road, State Road 199, and there's no benefit to the hunter to.
No, and that's State Road 199. It doesn't go out.
I
On
think
the
we're-
north side of White Peak does it.
So it's been administratively closed for at least 30 years. Okay, way before our times. And the department still recognizes that, and the court still recognizes that. They did
So if I-
identify some other roads that are in this area, but that's not what we're talking about today.
so if we want to access White Peak from that way, or from above the beaver dams, we go down on the downstream side of the beaver dams, cross there and get through and go over to Martinez.
It's closed.
That road.
I mean,
Turn across the- I don't know which road you're talking about.
as you guys know, I mean, it's not a secret, Unit 48 roads, they are probably one of the roughest roads in the state, you know what I mean? And so, if you got a big chunk of private, and you gotta travel several miles on nothing, or private on both sides, why wouldn't you just get back on 120, make it probably about 27-minute drive to get on Red Hill, and you're getting the same access, that's what we're trying to say.
My understanding of that part of our road, 199, Mission Road, it's in real rough shape. You're gonna get the access you're looking for, like 2.5 hours, like going around that. From east side.
27 minutes is driving down to Moedas and that's the easy part. And once you get here anywhere near Red Hill, now you're in for another couple of hours driving to get here.
Anyone else in the
But
back?
I guess that's, if there's an administrative.
So if I have a map that I got from the Attorney General and the State Land Office that shows those roads that you can go from White Peak to the back to Westman Hill or Horseshoe Lake. Of the null and void. Because it shows. Speak up.
So
So we can hear you.
speaking of are all on David Stanley's place, because that court decision only applied to David Stanley. None of those roads, I have the maps, I can supply you with. None of those public roads come all the way over onto this property here. It all goes David Stanley back east, southeast towards Midfield and over toward White Peak.
You had a question or comments?
2 years ago, I was hunting the Sweetwater side, and, I was muzzle loading hunt. And, a rancher, cowboy, not the rancher himself, but cowboy came off La Brua all the way over, said there was a road there that could come down to where I was hunting at Sweetwater. He told me that he had a hunting license that he could hunt too, but he wasn't hunting with a muzzle loader, he had a rifle. What's the deal? That's not right either, because.
Yeah, without looking at the specific time of the year and stuff, there is some of that code use, not code use, but there's some little bit of overlap on rifle stuff and muzzleloader stuff. But that's one of those things, call us, and we'll figure it out, or we'll address it.
There's only 3 of you guys.
Only 3 of us in this room. The rest of them are on the hilltops of the pine. No, but seriously, I mean, the power of the public being out there, because any hunting season, you're gonna have maybe a handful of us in that GMU. And there's gonna be a couple hundred potentially public hunters there. So you're the best eyes and ears that we have to help us combat wildlife violations. Without doubt.
I'd like to get the landowner's opinion on this and not his outfitter. I'd like to hear what he has to say about it and how it helps everybody.
But no, I'm all in favor of this thing. My family, we've been up there 90+ years. I've been managing the grazing, and 36 years. And it's just been just getting off of 120, going into there. They used to go, it was called the car bodies. Remember going by and going car bodies? And there was no fence back off 120. And let's see, Felipe Medina sold that to Arizona. Let's see, easy landing cattle out of Arizona there. And then they sold it to Jeremy Gold. And Jeremy Gold sold it to Tim Bolt. But anyway, for longest time, everybody went, it was the path of least resistance. You just, you went up there. And then I forget the name of the family that was from Arizona, but they put that fence in on 120, and then that's when everybody started going on that other mess in, and it was fenced off. He's going through they're deeded there. We had a easement with Felipe Medina, that 30-foot easement that had to get in there now. We had it to where we could get cattle to 120, so we could ship them out. You just push them there. He owned some property there that he needed to get, he wanted an easement on that same 30-foot to, he had a property that sat out there, and he needed to get down the same easement. So we kind of had a two-way easement, and that's what we're kind of using for everybody to use. The state land office is using it now to thin that timber, and they like that access, and they're keep doing a pretty good job of keeping it nice. But I think we're hunters too, and I got a lot of friends that hunt up there, and they like it. They can get to it. It's not very far off 120.
Why now and not 30 years ago? Your offer.
Offered, okay, all right, because everybody went through the car bodies. They went through somebody else's private property.
Yeah, but
If I
now
tried
we
to
go
put
around the edge of the Vega,
yeah, and if I wanted to cut it off, oh heck, just go down a fence post or two and cut it. Go in, it was not, we're mainly there to graze it. And we get our cattle up there through mid-September. And we just kind of ranching.
because I understand one of the problems is poaching and trespassing. That has been here for 200 years. So that's fighting down for coming 20 years ago, 30 years ago. So
Well, at the same time, we're always, as an agency, we're always trying to evolve to benefit hunters in general, right? So we've been, even road improvement in 48, me and my guys, we went up there and man, we ended up cutting 72 trees off of the Unit 48 roads. And that, I mean, we didn't necessarily have to, but it's something that we were thinking, like, that's gonna benefit the hunter, because if there's a big tree in the middle of the road, now hunters, they just go around the tree. They're crossing on the private property. So why not fix that? Why not help the landowner keep his property his? And then we just do a little bit of effort to open up those roads. So
But in that case, you go to Unit 48 and you see nothing but orange and white. So which is state and which is private and which is public, if you do not have the next map on it.
To address your
Because Tanya
question,
has got everything in orange and white.
technology has advanced so much more today than it was 30 years ago. 30 years ago, 15 years ago, everybody's using paper maps to figure out where they're at. And you can tell where you're at pretty good. Technology today with Onyx Maps, Carrier Maps, any of these other programs makes it so simple. Where if you are actually on the private property, you are knowingly hunting private property without written permission. That public hunter is in violation, even if it's not posted.
I'd just like to get back to some comments on just on time and things, how things have changed. But what's really caused a lot of management problems is the four-wheeler. 20 years ago, I mean, people, there wasn't that much traffic because people didn't want, you tear up your vehicle.
And you could camp everywhere. Yeah, at that time you could camp and not worry about it.
That was nice.
Yeah, that was really nice.
So there's.
I always gotta come back.
We're working at it.
Yeah, I hope.
That was less traffic to get from point A to point B. Now you have to get on the UTV and travel 10 miles to your hunting ground because you gotta camp in La Grulla, just one place in La Grulla, one place at Aspen Hill. So if you wanna go to Horseshoe Lake, you gotta travel 10, 15 miles or got more traffic on those roads and you gotta try to make the best of time. So camping should be open up to the way it used to be before.
Let's get back on track with comments. Is there anybody else in the front row here? Yeah, go ahead.
In my opinion, I've been hunting the Blue Yard Ridge for many years, for generations. In my opinion, me and my family, we're not ready to give it up. You know, you see the map, it's making their area bigger. And these little things that you're giving us here, I don't even hunt that anyway. I wouldn't switch La Grulla Ridge for those little things. In my opinion, it's one-sided. You said, okay, poachers. People decide to poach or jump the fence. That's what the laws are for. You guys do your job. It's got nothing to do with us individuals that are law-abiding citizens. Okay. Let me see what else. Do you lease the state land around Aspen? Do you lease the state land?
Yeah, we're the grazing lessons.
Okay, I see. So this gentleman knows where the out are and how they work. That was there. Okay, that's another question. Who's gonna make the final decision on this?
We'll take all the comments that we get via email, via this meeting, and then get back with state land office. Basically work together, see if this is.
I need a name. I need some names.
A committee, is there?
Because I called Mr. Campos yesterday, but I didn't get a chance to talk to Mr. Campos. I know Mr. Campos helped us out with White Speak before, you know what I mean, so.
It takes three parties. It takes the landowner, it takes state land office, the commissioner, and then it takes our director. Those are the three signatures. So there's not one person, there's three, and I'll have to.
I'm happy to leave my cards in the room if you're welcome to email me or call me at the state land office and I can. One of the reasons we're here is because the commissioner does have to sign off on this. She wants to hear from those of you who use it to understand if this is in the best interest.
She wants to hear from us, but she's not here.
She was unable to be here tonight.
Then she didn't want to hear from us.
She does, she sent me here to hear from you.
It's not broken,
I
leave
work
it
it.
alone, help him. That's the way I see it.
Another thing is, you guys say that they're giving up 1,500 acres. And we're giving up how much? 900 acres. But what about the 600 that we're giving them access to?
You guys still have access to that.
Right.
And they get
But so do they.
Yeah, they went under.
So what's the number now? 15 and 15?
Pretty close, yeah.
Okay, so that's, you know, you
That's
guys are
some of the-
making a picture that we were gaining more than what they were, but in all reality, they're gaining as much access as we are. But with a broader, more area than these little patches that we're getting. You see that?
We're not trying to paint anything,
No, I
we're just trying to
understand.
throw it out
Yeah,
there and see what you guys
No, I
think.
I understand what you guys are trying to do. Of course, I understand what's going on here. You know what I mean? But in my opinion,
It's not allowed.
yeah, it's, yeah.
But you don't lose.
When you look at the
Public
bigger,
access isn't lost.
the idea is to do some big block management. Okay, so I'm just gonna split it in half here.
And everybody
You
knows
know-
that's where the bulls rest across the Martinez.
When you look at a lot of this stuff, this whole area, the public hunter doesn't have to worry about where these roads cross. If they're hunting in this area, that's their big chunk that they don't have to worry about, that side of it. When you look at the eastern side of it, the same thing applies. That's the basis of the background behind unitization. Try to get some big blocks of country.
Yeah, they're trying to expand their hunting is what they're doing, and push us out more this way and allow them, see, the hunters in all reality haven't surrounded. So whichever way their hunters go, they're gonna push them into the state hunters or vice versa, is what they're doing. Everybody knows where do the big pools come from, the UU Ranch. You hunt that fence line over there, you're taking a 50-50 chance that you can run into a monster pool up there. Everybody knows that, that's why we hunt that area. You know what I'm saying? The trade is not apples to apples, in my opinion. And if I had a vote, I'd say no. Another thing is to the state people. I've been calling you guys for 2 years about the camping. I've been hunting there since I was a kid. Back in the 90s, I camped up there. State police shows up to our camp and says, "Hey, you can't camp up here." I said, "Hey, I'm on state land. I have a state tag." So you need permission from whoever's leasing the property. You know what they did? They kicked us out. So I told him, what am I supposed to do? Drive back and home from home just because the leaser ain't gonna allow me to camp here? He said, yeah. I know, okay, after that, you guys gave us a place to camp, right there by Cook Peak. If you don't take your camp 2-3 days in advance and get your camper in there, everybody here's on a hillside. Why would they, you know what I mean? They close. I've been calling the state. I talked to Mr. Campos about that situation. Down the road, there's a big meadow that's state land. Why didn't they let us camp there? No, they pulled us over here to the arroyo, to the unleveled ground. You get what I'm saying? So all this thing about for the hunter, this isn't for the hunter. This is for the private people, for the people with money. And another thing is, this is our land. This is our state land. You know, fourth generation or whatever, but I'm talking for everybody, for our children's children, because you know what, we've been losing land and this, that, and I understand the checkerboard stuff. Well, if they have a problem, why don't they fence their land out? You know, I live in town, I don't like my neighbor, I'll put a fence there, I'll build the stuff. They're talking about that, hey, there's no fence over there, so hunter spots. Well, maybe they should fence out their property and put no trespassing. You know what I mean? And if people well, call the cops, like you said, when we do, because I've been catching people hunting on state land for over 30 years. I catch them, I find them when they're lost, they're from Pennsylvania all over, or they're lost again, or right down to the Stanley, or vice versa. You get what I'm saying? I'm just, you know, just stating my opinion. That's all I gotta say. If I gotta vote, I'll say. All right.
I'll just say that in comparison, those hunting spots prefer the one that you want to share. It's like saying, hey, we'll let you into our trailer courts if you let us into your plaza. You know what I mean? They're just not comparison at all. Just those bases versus that area. It's just, like I said, it's like, hey, we'll give you these little crappy areas if you let us into your prime spot. You know? That's just the only thing about it is everybody knows that area is freaking good. It's freaking awesome. Everybody likes to get there. And now to add more competition to it, you know what I mean? To add more tag holders into that area that have better guys, have better, you know, ways of getting those animals or even pushing us out, that's what makes it a little hard about trying to give up that area or sharing that area. Because we all know that it's not being shared.
So how would you feel about if it was taken off the table?
Oh, you guys heard about it.
No. How would you feel about it if the yellow wasn't included? If that was just state land, how would you feel about it?
It'd be fun, stay the way it is now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the red would be. Right, that's what was from your ridge. Why, that's state chestnut. What's that? That's state chestnut. That's in red. Correct. But in the swamp.
So you're saying in other words, just taking off the yellow and putting up.
Correct.
The yellow becomes state land again, so the private.
Oh, it is state
landowner-
land. It's not like
Yeah, it's already
It's like
state
giving
land.
something back to us that's already yours.
But I mean, that's what I'm hearing, right?
No, that's not what they're hearing. Access, because there right now there's access.
Sure.
You've had a comment for a while, right, ma'am?
Yeah, I was just curious, what will happen, like, if it goes through and, put it into play, and then one of those ranchers goes and sells the ranch, does that piece of ranch come off of the play? And it's more of their access, or what happens there to that, will that do?
Like one of the open places, like a piece of the green.
Yeah, let's say Stanley decides to sell his ranch, and that's still his property out there. What
It'd be
happens
Mr.
there?
Davis in this instance, so if he decided to sell one of those pieces in green, I imagine, correct me if I'm wrong.
It might be some.
It's a year-to-year contract.
Oh, if he decides to sell, if this would go through and if he would decide to sell his ranch, the red would be part of the sale to the new owner.
No, it's not deeded land.
No, it's not deeded land.
No.
So if he,
Well, would
like,
that- would it
say,
still
yeah, so
remain as a-
we go forth with the agreement, a month down the road, he sells the whole ranch, this whole agreement is null and void. Goes back to the regular land status, and we have to go back into negotiations with the current landowner, if we want to pursue it again.
So then you got all these hunters getting mixed to one way, and then next day you pull it out and say, no, you don't have access to that no more. That's kind of very confusing.
Well, that's kind of, you covered it earlier, every year, I think like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, we really started doing that Unit 48 hunter letter. And again, whatever email address they put on their account, that's what we're emailing to that email address. And it's about a 5-page packet, and all it is just information in general about Unit 48. And so any kind of change that happens in Unit 48, it's part of that packet. And you'll be, I was surprised, I still get calls like, about Unit 48, well, did you get the packet? I did, and then we'll further explain to them if there's any kind of, confusion on it, so.
Generally speaking, if one of these makes it through the first 2-3 years, and it doesn't get heavy opposition in the next public meetings, it's probably gonna stay that way for a while. And if the landowner does sell it, null and voids it, we need to start from scratch.
We're just going back on some things, in 2009, it was CS Cattle Company forever. And we became, we kind of made it, our mountain country, we switched to American Creek Properties Incorporated. But we celebrated our 152nd year, and we don't plan on leaving. We'll be around.
I got a question, like when is this decision gonna be made?
When?
Like when?
Probably, I think the idea would be if the general consensus is it's something we want to decide and go forward with, I think we'd be trying to do it sooner rather than later. We'd be waiting, the land commissioner and the director to sign it, but.
And I think there's two things that contribute to that, because tonight's meeting, this is a clarification, because this is a question that came up. Are we gonna post this information? Because one of the things that we agreed upon was that people would have an opportunity to provide comment in writing as well. So how long are we gonna have that open? Because that's an important component. If people couldn't be here tonight, we want to hear from them as well. We want to hear from you, if you'd like to put something in writing in addition to this, or just, this meeting is being recorded and it will be I think that the commissioner certainly wants to hear from everybody, and if this is not a situation that people are comfortable with, then this may not be the year for it. I think that that's why we're doing this meeting, is because it needs your input, people who use the area, and those of us in this room, and there are others that couldn't be here. So I don't know what that timeline looks like, but I don't think the commissioner would be in favor of rushing something.
Just to put your mind, the commission actually really caring about this thing. That's the reason we're having this meeting tonight. Like, we're having this commissioner said, have a public meeting to find out what's happening. So I'm also a public hunter, and it really matters to me also, but it's great. This commissioner really does care what you have to say with all the public hunters. So know what you're saying now will be taken to the end, and that's why we're here. So put you at ease with that.
We'll take one more comment. We have a lot of comments online that will go on here too, so.
Real quick, I know, I think he touched base on it, but why the co-use in the Julio Bridge and not these other parcels on the southern end, on the entrance off of 120? Why not co-use those ones? I want to hear from
That's
him.
a no-brainer, we know why.
Yeah, we know why, but I want to know.
So we could have a presence in the area on the border, this the south. That's why it's the closest to that whole line, right?
Most poachers are on the road. I know that's where these guys come in. That's why the state, we pay taxes. They're out there patrolling. That's their job, to punish guys that are trespassing and, breaking laws. Everybody knows, everybody has a phone. I don't know anybody really anymore. There is people that have laws to cross those fences. It's not like they used to.
You can still cross the fence out of the way.
Oh, yeah.
We're here at, license holders, like we try to sort right away. It's the bad apple, but right now, if there's another bad apple that's happening, trying to transfer, someone's best hunting for. Oh, my gosh.
Okay, I'm gonna take some comments online here.
Michael Bolin, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thank you, everybody. I guess a couple comments that I have are related to access and public and land access. And I think what we see is that is always being threatened. And I think when you look at a partnership with a landowner in the area and Game and Fish that try and make a win-win for everybody, it's something that we should all strongly consider. I think when you look at this particular arrangement, you have 7 parcels that reduce conflict, that increase habitat via water and feed and stuff like that. I think it makes sense to consider it, especially when you look at it's going to give access and not reduce access, and it's going to reduce conflict and increase habitat in public land access. So I think it's something that somebody from the Game and Fish Department, is there a reason that it doesn't make sense?
If the public tells us it doesn't make sense and the hunters tell us, then that would be a reason why it would make sense.
Right, and I'm a hunter, and I think you look at access is the paramount to public land. If we create conflict, whether it's poaching or cutting across, creating your own access through private, it creates conflict, which eliminates access. So I think that's where I'm headed with this is it looks like it's been fairly well thought out, and it doesn't seem like it's necessarily a win for either side, which means it's a fair trade in terms of what each is giving up. And I think from the comments, the yellow area is the most prized area, and it seems like there's been a fair compromise there. So I guess I think it's been well thought out, and I think that you guys should consider going forward with it.
Thank you, Michael.
We had another question from Alex Flores, but he unfortunately had to leave the meeting, but his question was for the state land office. Has the office ever received a proposal or negotiated with American Creek for a land swap along these lines? This is the first unitization proposal in the series. And then we had a comment from Michael Local. He had to leave the email. There was a comment made earlier. I agree with the statement that this is another way for private property owners to make change to public hunting area and closing down and New Mexico residents who like to hunt on state.
Go back to you. You had one more comment?
Yeah.
Sorry.
The only one that I got is walking area, because my dad's disabled too, and he's disabled. I know a lot of disabled people that hunt this area. They can't walk it, and they love to drive and park and sit down and wait. That's my concern.
Right. And so I think, Stephen, yeah.
I would just say on mobility impaired stuff, I love that you brought this up. We honestly didn't discuss that a lot in this proposal, but I would say, if you look at your 100 access points on state land, we have quite a few that are designated as walking only. And we take several calls a year where we'll coordinate with our grazing lessee, the local game board on the ground, and we will get access open for true mobility impaired hunters with that license. So whether this goes through this year or not, that's something I think we will all take into account going forward with all unitization. Not just this one, so I appreciate those comments.
So my question is if the leasing is leasing the property, how does he have any single access to the property?
So.
Because he's leasing it, you don't know it, you don't know. It's ours.
So there's some history built into that, but, you know.
They should have no say of what happens on our property.
So in their grazing lease contract, and we've discussed this a lot, grazing lessee is essentially the base lessee on that land because they're out there taking care of it, you know, most of the time, but they are contractually
Because there's no
responsible.
one allowed on it.
Right.
We're only allowed on it when we can hunt.
For hunting, right? So they have a year-round lease, I understand that difference, but they are contractually responsible with the clause in their agricultural lease with us that says you were to help prevent waste and trespass. So with that, because if you read our regulations, there actually is not overnight camping allowed on state land unless you get that permission from them because they're supposed to help us manage waste and trespassing.
Well,
I
we're
understand.
trespassing, we're licensed hunters.
You are, but the overnight camping rule, is this something we're talking about internally about, can we change that? Because it's literally, it's part of our.
Now, we have to get that $30 tag to be able to go out there anytime we want to be able to camp for.
The rec permit tag?
Yeah.
Only, so your camping, as you guys know, only with your hunting license is only in those designated dispersed areas, that we've heard about. But even your overnight, if you go buy a recreational access permit for $35, that does not convey any overnight camping on state land without the
Always have
agricultural
the
license.
access to go anytime we want that.
Yeah, but even those rec people would have to go to our ranch or camp while I'm wildlife watching out there. Can I camp while I'm riding my mountain bike or whatever?
My opinion, BC shouldn't have that kind of authority over our land, that's on that land us. Taxpayers and taxpayers also. They shouldn't have that power. They're already leasing these, prime land raising for how much? State's not making money, huge benefit the rancher. So now, the rancher, they know they're there all the time, they know where the good ones is. If that other property meant so much to them or was so good, they wouldn't be trying to switch for that renovation. They would say, people, we can't allow this to happen. In my opinion, it's a, it's.
And I believe it should go to a bipartisan vote instead of just somebody saying, oh, yeah, it's done. The public should be able to have a vote, and where the vote lands, it lands. It shouldn't just be the three agencies, it should be us, we the people.
That's why we're having these comments. We're taking all your comments, the directors for both agent or the my director and the land commissioner is gonna review these
But you
comments.
make the
and they
comments,
will
you're
make
not
the-
letting the people vote on what they want.
You guys are giving your comments.
That's not a vote, yeah, exactly. Cause he could say yes, I could say no.
They're the final say on it, so. And
Well, who
they,
proposed it then? It came from, you said that it came from Chino, but there's someone else that has just been one day, let's approach this rancher. Trade.
Yeah, who's the
Yes.
person that thought about this idea?
Captain Jackson,
Captain Jackson.
Yes.
The highest of the.
No. he's the highest of our law enforcement. Director Michael Sloan is our director. Okay, it goes Colonel Simbal, me, Captain Jackson, Sergeant Pearl.
Hired by the rancher.
Is he hired by them?
When he's not on duty.
No.
Does he hunt these ranches?
No.
See, because in the past, I don't know if you guys remember, but most of the hunters, in the past, we had some kind of state land commissioner that tried to give all our state land up in White Stick 48 area for the land out there somewhere.
The way they usually work, the local officers, Captain Jackson, this time, gets in touch with the landowner that they know. He's a large landowner there, and we're always listening, hey, what kind of issues you're having, what are you seeing? And then those discussions can evolve into something like this.
And on behalf of like the boots on the ground, I can tell you the whole goal is to eliminate criminal trespass, right? So for example, this right here is public, that's state land, right? Nobody, if they don't have permission, that is landlocked right there. So they can't. So we try to come up with solutions. Instead of having that landlocked or this being private, let's just, again, going back to agencies trying to evolve, how can we make this area based on the criminal trespass caseload that we get year in, year out? How do we try to make it flow better, enforcement wise, public experience, landowner wise? Because we get calls all the time, and believe me.
And how many of those calls are just the landowner mad because we're up there? 'Cause I've been on state land.
Yeah, not in this particular area, but in Unit 48, we get a lot.
Because I've been on public land, and David Stanley's coming in here in my land here, I'm right now, no, I'm not.
Yeah,
It's
so,
state land.
so with that, we have that conflict all the time. So I go out there and I have to educate, I educate landowners just as much as I do public hunters. I have the same map that you explained earlier. I pull it out. These are public roads. They can't be on these roads. The biggest thing though is staying on public roads or public land. And I could tell you, I had a lot of meetings with Captain Jackson, and it was just an idea where we can keep this stuff contiguous instead of we're hiking, always looking at Onyx, and oh, we can't go any further. And so if we could put this in place where it's not gonna affect us, let's go continue on our hunt. You don't gotta worry about, it's gonna be contiguous instead of this checkerboard stuff. And go ahead.
I make a proposal, well, why don't we give them part of Aspen Meadow, because they got cattle and they wanna graze it. They'll give us access down here to 120, like that, we have full access over there, but they're more grazers, you get what I'm saying?
Different,
Give them
yeah.
Aspen Meadow.
Different leases. Different leases.
Yeah, different landowner.
Their lease, their grazing lease cuts across right here. That's why, well, it goes about right across there. I think it bumps up through there.
I can't see the house.
Yeah, I'm getting another map. Okay, can you see that now? Yeah, this little piece here is that closed off section here. From here south, all of that stuff is Stanley's lease. David Stanley, right? That doesn't have anything to do with American Creek. To the north,
Aspen Meadow. They got land right there, but some of the land that they're trying to give us is right next to Aspen Meadow. right there by Aspen, that big old open area, that's Aspen Meadow right there. We can
Right
strip
here?
some of that land, yeah, that big old open land, to the right where your house is,
This?
more down. Right. More right in there, let's give them some of that land for access down here on 120, so we can have full access. I mean, they got cattle. Benefits them, benefits us, better than giving us our prime.
You already have that. That's all state land. It's not being closed.
See,
It's not being closed.
okay, but who does that benefit? It wouldn't benefit them. See, so who are they trying to benefit? The rancher, not us. If they were trying to help us, that'd be a good trade. But no, it's not a good trade because see, they already have the lease. You get what I'm saying? They already have the lease.
And then I see all these ranches, not here, but I see down south or something. Small line hunting. They have a lease and I have to say, no, it's grazing, lease, it's not hunting. And they try to, use that, to get us off the property.
You need to bring that to our attention and say, right.
And I tell them to the patient, and I pull my honest too, and I'll tell her, I'm going back. But that's one of the big problems I see with the landowners, with the lease. Trying to say, no, you can't hunt here, but I know that it's just a grazing, it's not. So I've had to deal with that, and it'll come up again on this kind of issue.
They're claiming ownership.
There's another comment, there's another comment online from Doug Hank. His question is regarding the yellow co-use area. That is arguably the best hunting in all of 48. Everyone knows that, or they do now. The big elk come over the northern mountains to the water and bed in the ridge. Part of the beauty of that spot is only public hunters can access it. I would worry that the experience would change when it turns into a co-use area. Why are we letting private landowners pick the land that they want to access?
Go back to that shared use area. Both sides get to use it. Both are going back to a roadless area, walk-in access. That was a compromise there. But another suggestion on the table is to remove the shared boundaries, except south of the Goulet or the ridge, south would be closed and the north would be opened up to back to the state land status. That may be a proposal.
I think that you guys need to let us know when you're having the next meeting, because it's getting long and it's getting boring and kind of not getting no work, so let us know when you're having the next 3 more meetings, at least make it legal.
Thank you for your comments. I don't know yet. On the fire? Oh, I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see how much more comments we need, and if we have to identify some more stuff, we'll set up another meeting.
This crowd is not big enough to make the whole decision, so you need more input.
That'll work. Thank you guys for your comments and everything. Is there any more in the inside or online? Yeah.
Where can we get access to the recordings today? It'll be on the website. It'll be on the website, on the game website.
So if you registered or when you got the email for the invitation, there was a spot to register for the virtual tour. If you register again, you'll still be able to get in.
Yeah.
Is there any more?
Do you have any more of the small maps?
It's on that invitation that we sent out. Yeah, you guys should have got a revised map, this map. What you guys should receive on that when they resend out the correct map.
That email says, click here to view proposal, it's that, that's like that.
What email are you talking about?
The invite that you would have gotten.
I got that on Facebook.
I got it.
So the way we did it, we took the last 2 years of hunters that applied in GMU 48. We needed something to start with.
Right.
For recipient list, and that's what we started with. And then it sounds like you're knowing how to share it socially from there.
It's good, it's good the way.
But that's, okay. Have you put in for GMU 48 in the last 2 years? Man. I guess check your spam. Do you have a current email on our, like on your account? I can check. Yeah. Should have that email.
We don't have any more comments or stuff. Stick around for a little bit longer, but thank you guys for taking the time out of your busy schedules on a Monday evening to sit down with us and talk this out a little bit more.
I really drive on that.